Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Honest Football Talk, where I, Thomas Llewellyn, give you guys my honest take on everything going on in the NFL world today. And by gosh, guys, can you believe it? We've had some crazy results already here to start off week 2. It's been wild these first 2 weeks of the NFL, and let's just jump right into the episode. Let's jump into some of the week 2 recap, and I'll give you guys some of my major takeaways from week 2. So jumping right on into it, let's get into the first game, the game that we covered a little bit more extensively last week, the Bills and the Dolphins. Now, of course, that game did not turn out nearly like I thought it was going to, mostly due to the fact that the Dolphins got their quarterback hurt. Tua got hurt very, very early in this game on Thursday night and did not look good. Unfortunately, if you guys have been keeping up with the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa has suffered from multiple concussions in his NFL career. Unfortunately, some of these occurring on prime time, and it's not just the fact that he gets these concussions, it's the way in which he gets these concussions and the way in which his body reacts to these concussions, because now it's known that the body can have these involuntary movements whenever a individual is to get concussed, but it's never seen to this degree with Tua for whatever reason. Usually when you witness a concussion on the field, individual might be dazed and confused at most whenever you see a concussion like that, but you never see these weird finger movements or these like hand locking gestures from individuals when they go into these concussion issues. And for whatever reason, we see it a lot with Tua Tagovailoa. I don't get it. It's been really, really unfortunate for him. Each time he suffered a concussion, he's went into these little phases of where he has his hands lock up and makes grimacing gestures on his face that the camera ends up zooming in on him, because of course it's usually prime time when this happens for whatever reason. It's very unfortunate for the guy. I definitely hope for his full recovery. I know there's been a lot of conversation on whether or not Tua should retire because of the nature of these previous injuries and the way in which he keeps continuing to get concussed. One would think, how many more hits is worth it. He's already made so much money. He just signed his big contract extension with the Miami Dolphins, so he's been paid. There's not really a huge incentive to continue going other than, of course, to win a Super Bowl. And as a former athlete myself, I can kind of relate to the dedication and the want to continue playing, because I mean, if that's your dream, if your dream job, imagine yourself in any sort of dream scenario. It doesn't even have to be football, something you love the most in life, and then just snap, it's all gone, just instantly. Like, that's really hard for an individual to process. So, when you're thinking about Tua, don't think of it as such an easy decision to make, because it really isn't. This is a very, very difficult decision that he has to make with his family, with his loved ones, everyone involved. He's got to make the best decision for himself. If he feels that he's still got something to prove out on the football field, I'm not going to judge him twice for going back out there and, wanting to, make some sort of history. I mean, you only get one shot to ever be in the NFL. There's a very finite amount of time in which you're able to do anything in the NFL, and some people, they value their legacy more than their personal health, and I respect that in a way. I mean, that's the whole entire reason why I think we have like armed forces and stuff, people that's willing to put their lives on the line. Now, it could be argued, is it worth putting your life on the line for an entertainment sport like this? I mean, no. I mean, most people are going to say no, but there are people probably in the sport that would probably beg to differ. I mean, they see it as a big brotherhood in a lot of these locker rooms, and people are willing to go out there and fight for their brother. So, I mean, I see it as a very similar camaraderie, if that makes sense, with like a military-esque mindset. But, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that Tua should retire? What are your honest opinions? Because coming from an athlete, I mean, I agree. I think he should retire for his family. It makes the most sense. He's already made his money. It's not like he's in any sort of financial crisis here. But at the same time, I understand why he would want to continue to play. But yeah, very, very interesting situation. Very difficult decision to make, I'm sure, for Tua and his family. So, I wish the best going forward for him. But looking back at the game in total, Tua got hurt somewhat into the third quarter. So at about that point, they were already down big. Tua had already thrown 3 interceptions. Tua wasn't playing a very good game before this. So I don't know if even had the injury not happen, if Miami would have had a chance in this game. But regardless, it's still super unfortunate for the Dolphins. I don't see the Dolphins being as very much competitive early this season until Tua does come back, if he does decide to come back, or if he does decide to retire. This might be a down year for the Dolphins, unfortunately, where they had a lot of promise going into this year. So I feel for you Dolphin fans. It's not fun having to go through this. I know. Injuries just suck in the NFL, and especially when it happens to your star player, your quarterback. There's not a lot you can do with it, and hopefully Miami's able to bounce back and find themselves a replacement or something. After this injury, even though they just paid Tua, I think it would make sense for Miami to maybe even start looking at a quarterback in the next draft class, or at least start investing in, some quarterback assets for that team, because even though you technically have a paid quarterback, one more concussion, you feel like it's going to be the end, even if Tua doesn't feel that way, you feel like you're just like one or two concussions away from being completely done, so I don't know. It's a tough choice for that organization and for Tua himself. So interested to see how that turns out going forward. And looking at the Bills, it's surprising how dominant they still look, even though they've lost all their pieces. They've lost so much on the defense, and they lost Stephon Diggs, their best wide receiver, still coming out playing dominant football. Seems like Josh Allen can lead that team no matter what, no matter who he's got at wide receiver. James Cook looks really good, had 3 touchdowns in this game. They can rely on their run game, and I think they're good to go. Von Miller still has it. He's still producing out there when he's out on the field. Dude doesn't look like he's lost a step even with his injury last year, so looks like he's coming back fresh, and the Bills are poised to win that division, especially with all these injuries happening with the Dolphins. I think the Bills have a good chance of winning that division. So that's everything I got for the Thursday night matchup. Let's move on to the next matchup that caught my attention, which was the Washington Commanders versus the New York Giants. Now, this matchup caught my eye. You might not think, oh my goodness, these two teams, who cares about these guys? Well, one, there's a lot of interesting storylines that happen with this game. One big thing that I thought was interesting, it's Jaden Daniels' first win as a pro athlete. So good for Jaden to get that win for Washington. But at the same time, the stats really boggle my mind. If you hear this, the Giants are the first team, I believe, ever to do this as well. This is a crazy stat. Giants scored 3 touchdowns in this game and still lost to the opponent, even though the opponent never scored a touchdown. The Commanders won on 7 field goals. They scored 7 field goals. I repeat, 7 field goals. Like, wow, are you kidding me? Mind-boggling stuff. Never did I even think that was possible. The Giants were in an unfortunate position as well. They didn't have their kicker this game. It was Graham Gano, I believe, suffered an injury pre-game, so they had to go the whole game without kicking the ball every time. That's why they only finished with 18 points, even though they scored 3 touchdowns. That's what happens when you can't kick an extra point, or I guess ever get the 2-point conversion either. But yeah, a very hats off to Washington for being able to pull off that win against the Giants. I felt the Giants looked a lot better, of course, in the red zone. We were able to get the scores in the red zone, but for whatever reason, Washington still pulled out on top. They were able to drive down the field every time they get the ball. Wasn't able to cap it off with a touchdown, but was enough to get them a field goal. And I guess it was good that the Commanders got this new kicker. What's his name? Austin Serbert. Very good game from him. Big props to him coming in and being able to kick all 7 of those and get the Commanders their win. Big hats off to him, and curious to see how this Commanders team goes. They don't pass the ball too well, I'd say. Jaden Daniels is a phenomenal athlete, though. He's able to run the ball very, very well. I don't think his style of play is going to be able to be sustainable, though, in the NFL as teams continue to pick up his play style. We'll see if he starts passing the ball more. I think the dude's got a lot of promise as long as he makes the right decisions in the pocket. So yeah, really interested to see how that goes on, and we'll see if the Commanders are able to keep it up. Giants, on the other hand, they got, of course, a lot of problems. It's Daniel Jones is one of their biggest problems. Love Malik Neighbors. He did so well for them. Unfortunately, had a bad drop that pretty much cost the Giants this game. If he would have, caught the ball on their last 4th down drive that they had, they probably win that game. But unfortunately, things happen. So Malik wasn't able to complete that pass and ended up leading to the Commanders' win. But, Malik is going to be a great athlete, great pick by New York. He's looking to be one of the best wide receivers in the league. Definitely fighting for Marvin Harrison Jr. to be the best rookie wide receiver. Both look phenomenal and both look like great picks so far. But yeah, that's about everything I got on the Giants. Giants definitely need to clean up their defense, not let teams run down the field and score on them. They seem to be doing decent in the red zone, but it's not cutting it so far with these first 2 weeks. We'll see if they make any changes going forward. And with that, let's get to our third game. The third game that I wanted to talk about here is the Dallas Cowboys versus the New Orleans Saints. And my goodness, guys, the New Orleans Saints. Who would have thought through these first 2 weeks that the New Orleans Saints, on every single offensive possession that they would have, that they would score every single time. Never have to punt, always scoring. It just blows my mind that the Saints are this good. Never would have expected it. There was a lot of, if you heard out of training camp, I believe there was a popular soundbite from Chris Olave stating when they asked Chris Olave, is there any big plays or any big wow moments in training camp that makes you think that, wow, this team's really taking a big step forward? And he looked at the reporter and said, not really. It made you think, the Saints are probably in for another dud year, another like 8, what is it? Probably like an 8-9 type season or 9-8 type season, and they might scurry into the playoffs as a wild card, but always like inconsistency. I was expecting to see some higher games and lower games, but to start out scoring every single offensive possession you have, and then going to Dallas and in their home win streak in the regular season, just completely destroy their home game winning streak there of 16 games was really, really awesome by the Saints. A great win by them. Derek Carr looks phenomenal right now. Looks like what, the Saints paid him to come in and be. And I don't know if it's the change in offensive coordinator. It seems to be that's been a big help. They're making a lot more like deep plays right out the gate in some of these games. Raheed Shaheed is a great deep threat for the Saints. I'm excited to see how this team goes going forward. We'll touch on them again later here for the Week 3 preview, as I'm not looking too forward to them this week, but I am curious to see how the Saints go going forward. Now, when it comes to Dallas, they have a lot of issues that are going to be hard to address now because they didn't really address these issues in the offseason. It's looking like the defense actually has some holes that you wouldn't expect too much from them. They're not doing as well in the secondary, they're not doing as well in the run defense as what you'd expect. Alvin Kamara had over 100 rushing yards against them. The Saints just basically dominated on the ground against them. Didn't have to pass too much in the second half. So Dallas has got to pick up that run defense, and we'll see if they're able to make some changes going forward. I'm going to be honest, the whole NFC East is not looking too good after Week 2. Like I said, we'll get into that here very shortly. But yeah, looking at Dallas, I see them as a fringe playoff team still. I think my prediction is still going to be solid on them, just making it into the wild card. We'll see how that goes for them. Like I said, offense has got to be able to produce better. They don't have a true wide receiver 2. I don't know, Jalen Tolbert is going to pick up the pace, or Brandon Cooks is going to pick up the pace for him, but they need a true wide receiver 2. And maybe if they get Ferguson back, their tight end might have some more production in the pass game. But yeah, going from there, not the prettiest, or not the result you definitely want to see as a Dallas fan. Not the prettiest football from the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll see if they're able to pick it up going into Week 3. But yeah, hats off to the Saints. Curious to see if they're able to keep up this production going into Week 3 as well. Alrighty, so getting on to our fourth key takeaway from Week 2. Biggest one of the big games or one of the big takeaways that I got from Week 2 here comes from the Minnesota Vikings versus the San Francisco 49ers. I was very, very surprised to see that the Vikings somehow pulled out a win here against the 49ers. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that when J.J. McCarthy went down, that Sam Darnold was going to take over this team and show them that Sam Darnold's still a starter in the NFL. My goodness, dude's not seeing ghosts anymore, that's for sure. He's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks within the first 2 weeks here of the NFL, looking like one of the top tier end quarterbacks going into the season. It's mind-boggling to see how well he's doing now with the Minnesota Vikings. it makes you wonder when you go to Carolina, do you go to fail, or what's going on there? Why is it that every quarterback that plays in Carolina just does so terribly, but when they leave, they tend to do so much better? Look at Baker Mayfield, and then now look at Sam Darnold, two former Carolina Panthers quarterbacks that have rose from the ashes per se from from Carolina and has been dominant in their new homesteads. Excuse me, very, very happy for Sam Darnold. Big shock for sure, but he's always shown that he can be a competent passer. It's just, I think a lot of the offensive schemes around him just haven't boded well to his strengths. And now that he's got some legitimate targets in like Justin Jefferson, of course, the best wide receiver in the league, and Jordan Addison, looking good. And they got more weapons coming back with TJ Hawkinson once he comes off injured reserve. Their other receivers, last name's Naylor, actually looks really good for them as well. So Sam Darnold's got some weapons, and then they got Aaron Jones in the backfield who can break off a run anytime they need to. Apologize. But yeah, looks really, really good right now going forward for the Vikings. I'm excited to see how they do going forward. And for the 49ers, this was kind of a freak loss if you look at it. Was not expecting Brock Purdy to have such a down game, especially against the Minnesota Vikings. Didn't expect the Minnesota Vikings defense to be so good. Hats off to Brian Flores for coming in and really shaping up that defense to be really, really good. But from 49ers perspective, I think they've just like having trouble getting Brandon Ayuk accumulated to the to this offense. He's been out a good bit of training camp with his contract negotiations, so Brandon Ayuk isn't up to full speed, I think, with this offense. So we can see the rust still with a lot of working in those plays. Of course, Christian McCaffrey's out on injured reserve with his issues, so their running game isn't as top tier as it should be. Still very, very good. Jordan Mason is doing very, very good. I feel like any running back you put in there for the 49ers, they're going to produce because of the way that system is. 49ers have a great offensive system, but from there, I just it really is sad to see how great Christian McCaffrey is, and yet he can't get on the field. Like, this guy is a prodigy, and love to see him more often on the field and producing for the 49ers, but he just can't get on the field for whatever reason. It's a shame because the dude's could be a guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer if he was just healthy his whole career. But I digress. Hopefully they can get Christian McCaffrey sometime this season. I think the 49ers obviously are just going to be fine. This might have been more of a fluke loss than anything. Still got a great defense. Fred Warner had a great interception this game. Had one of the best linebackers in the league. I think, and of course with Bosa as one of their defensive ends, the 49ers will be just fine going forward. It's just cleaning up from here. I know Deebo Samuel's hurt now after this game, so that might be another loss for him. But as Brandon Ayuk starts to get more accumulated into the system, and hopefully they get Christian McCaffrey back soon, and hopefully if Deebo heals up well from this injury, they'll be just fine going into later on into the season. And yeah, that's what I got to say on the 49ers. And looking at the Vikings, like I said, super, super surprised at how well they're doing. But at the same time, really excited to see if they're able to keep it up. They might actually be a contender in that division. I always thought it was going to be between Green Bay and the Lions. I thought the Lions were going to run away with it, but Vikings might be pushing for the division themselves. It's going to be interesting to watch that battle play out. And then, of course, the last game that we'll get to here from Week 2, and of course we have to cover, as much as I don't want to, being an Eagles fan. The Monday night game looked great for the Eagles throughout the whole game until the very end of the fourth quarter, obviously. I felt like the Eagles controlled that game, ran the ball very, very well. But, of course, if you watch the game, you would notice that the biggest glaring issue for the Philadelphia Eagles right now is our gosh darn defense. We have no defense. I don't get it. It's mind-boggling. I kind of wrote it off in Week 1 when we played the Packers because we played in Brazil, and there was a lot of talk about the field being, not up to par and a lot of slipping and stuff. So I took our defensive line as like maybe they slipped a lot, weren't able to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback because of the field issues. But when looking into Week 2, it's clear as day we have a rushing the passer issue right now. Our defensive ends are not getting it done. Bryce Huff is not doing it. Nolan Smith looks like he's getting just bodied out there. I saw some clips of Bijan Robinson just stuffing Nolan Smith into the ground. It blows my mind how bad our defensive ends have gotten out of nowhere. I don't understand why we're not getting any bit of pressure on the quarterback right now. Josh Sweat seems to have taken a step backwards, unfortunately. It's just not looking good for the Eagles right now. And of course, that we've been following this dilemma in the offseason. The whole thing with Hassan Reddick, what's going on with him? Why isn't he back with the Jets? Maybe the Eagles need to go back for him. Maybe the Eagles need to go back to the Jets and be like, hey, hang on, maybe we want to trade back for him. Can you give him back to us? Because Eagles honestly need him. We need some sort of pass rush that's, more, what would be the word? That's more aggressive, that's more like going to get after the quarterback and not, go 7 to 10 plays in a row without getting any sort of pressure on the quarterback. We need pressure if we want our defense to be anything this year. So hopefully we're able to figure that out as time goes on. I know it's only 2 weeks. I know we shouldn't be hitting the huge panic button, but it blows my mind how bad our defensive line looks. And I couldn't believe after we went up 6 with way less than 2 minutes left in the game, like we should have won it. Defense should have been able to hold out there and not let them score a touchdown. They didn't score a touchdown all game. Had like one fluke 40-yarder broke out just because of a broken tackle from CJGJ, but other than that, one broken tackle. CJ played a tremendous game on defense, one of our highlighted players at safety, but other than that, D-line does not look good at all. Our run defense is atrocious. I feel like teams can just run up and down the field on us anytime they want. Anytime it's a run play, I feel like it's almost an automatic, first down for the enemy, and that's a problem for the Eagles going into week 3. Hopefully we figure this out. Vic Fangio was brought in to figure this stuff out, so that's all I can do as an Eagles fan is hope. I gotta say though, I'm very encouraged with Jalen Hurts' play. That whole game, he had the game in his hands. He made some great decisions, especially some of our 4th down conversions with him running out of the pocket when the play breaks down. Looking like the Jalen Hurts that took us to the Super Bowl. He's making some much better decisions here in week 2, and I'm very pleased to see that. I think that worst case scenario, our offense. With Saquon and Jalen Hurts, I feel like worst comes to worst, we can always, control the clock in a lot of these games. I feel like no matter what, the Eagles will have the ability to be able to control clocks late in games and end up coming up with wins when we shouldn't because of our weak defense. But don't want that to be an issue for a long time for the Eagles. Hopefully we figure it out ASAP, so this isn't something that we got to deal with, going forward. But we'll see how the Eagles respond this week. We'll get into the coverage here for the Week 3 preview, but with all that being said, I'm definitely disappointed in the way that the game ended, but I'm encouraged by the Eagles' offense. Very, very alarmed and worried about the Eagles' defense. And looking at the Falcons, I got to give credit where credit's due. The offense was able to run down our throats. I don't know if this is going to be replicated for the Falcons. From what I saw from the Falcons, they do not look great. I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins still being hurt or if it's the O-line not functioning well or what it is, but I also felt that the defense was going to play a lot better than what they did and kind of let the Eagles run up and down the field on them. Maybe it's because the Eagles are just more of an elite offense, so who knows. Falcons might have some better performances down the road, but was not impressed overall, even though they got the win. They snuck out with a win, and, good for them. Basically saved their season. It lets Kirk Cousins continue to start for the team, and, we'll see if they eventually put Michael Penix in, because I could see that happening sometime this year, especially if Kirk doesn't start really, really producing going forward. But yeah, that's all my week 2 previews. That's all the key takeaways I had. Let me know you guys' thoughts. Let me know if you guys thought of anything different. If there's any other games that you thought was very interesting or had some key takeaways that caught your eye, let me know in the comments below. Be happy to hear from you guys. And yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and go into our week 3 preview. Woohoo! So to start off our week 3 preview, might as well start off with the game tonight. As we know, the New York Jets are the home team tonight, and they take on the New England Patriots. Very nice rivalry. It's going to be very interesting to see how this game plays out. The Jets have been, their defense hasn't been nearly as dominant as what I expected them to be. But overall, the team has still played actually pretty well. I feel that, of course, Aaron Rodgers is a huge, huge upgrade at quarterback that they've had in years past. I mean, watching Zach Wilson for the last few years for the Jets, I'm sure it's refreshing for Jets fans to see Aaron Rodgers back there and actually making some good throws. Unfortunately, the offense isn't fully clicking yet. They struggled a little bit against Tennessee last week, and I'm still up in the air about the Jets. Are they really going to be a great contender here in their division? We'll see. I think the Bills kind of have it on lock now with the injuries in Miami. So, we'll see as time progresses. Of course, we're only 2 weeks into the regular season. As if Aaron Rodgers continues to build off this, I think he looked better in week 2 than he did in week 1. And if Aaron Rodgers continues to look better week in and week out, I think the Jets could end up, being a great contender here. So we'll see how that goes. And then looking at the Patriots, I've been very surprised at how competitive they've been already to start out the season. Not only coming out and beating the Bengals week 1, coming out and going into overtime with the Seattle Seahawks in week 2. You can tell that this team, even though they lost Bill Belichick, still going to be one of those gritty teams that holds on to the very end. Patriots still great defense, so they're going to stay in it with these games because their defense is able to create turnovers and create key stops that Patriots need and able to stay in games. And they have Ramondre Stevenson, who's an elite runner. I see this game going to be it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be low scoring. I don't see it being a very high scoring game, unfortunately. But the way the Patriots play, they're going to run the ball down your throat. They're going to take every advantage they can with their run game, and if they can get any sort of turnovers. So I see Patriots, running the ball as much as possible. Same with the Jets this game. They have Breece Hall. They might as well actually start taking advantage of using Breece Hall a lot more often. We'll see. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth type running fiasco, and it'll be a lower-scoring game. My predictions for this game, I'm going to say... I honestly think the Patriots are going to win. They're going to sneak out a win here against the Jets, even though they're the away team. I just think they have more pieces put together where there's more question marks with the Jets right now. Their defense isn't nearly as sound as what they were last year, so I think Jacoby Brissett is going to come in, and as long as he doesn't create a bunch of turnovers, as long as he keeps managing the game well, like he's been doing these first 2 weeks, I think the Patriots have a great chance of winning this game, and they're going to come out with a steal against the Jets here this week. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out. Final score prediction: I'm going to say Jets will win 20-14. That's how I see it. Or I said Jets. I'm sorry. The Patriots will win 20-14. Sorry about that. I had a little screw up in my head. What I meant to say: the Patriots will win 20-14 against the Jets. Being the away team, they're going to come in, steal a win from them. And like I said, they just got the better all-around team. I think the Jets have a better offense, obviously, compared to the Patriots, but the Patriots have a great defense, and I think they'll be able to stop the Jets and create some turnovers. And I think the Patriots, as long as they win the turnover battle, they're going to win the game. So that's there's like, according to ESPN, there's only a 33% chance of the Patriots winning. We'll see if I'm wrong on that, but I got some faith in the Patriots. I've been liking the way they've been playing ball. Going on from that, the next matchup that we'll get into is a Sunday matchup, and one that I'm a little nervous for. One of the first matchups that's got me real nervous to start the year. It's the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints are at home this week. Philadelphia Eagles are the away team. ESPN has it kind of 50-50, actually more 51% Saints winning this game, and makes sense as the Saints have come out. They haven't screwed up at all on offense, have scored on every offensive possession that they've had, have just dominated the first 2 weeks. So it makes sense that, especially the way the Eagles defenses look, that the Saints are in for a very high volume type of game where it's going to be them scoring up in the 40s again. The way the Eagles defense look, it would not surprise me, to be 100% honest with you. But I do have faith in the Eagles. I do think that this is a great game to get back on track. I think the team's going to be pissed off after they should have won last week, and even without A.J. Brown, that's another big key thing to all this, is that the Eagles are without their top wide receiver. I still see the offense clicking well. So overall, this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think the Eagles are going to win, and it's going to be close. It'll be something like 38-35 Eagles is what I'm going, because still love my team, still think we can pull it off. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's just going to be back and forth, because I think both offenses will be able to score points, and I don't think either defense is going to be able to stop each other. So, even though I think the Saints have a better defense than the Eagles, I think the Eagles' offense can, out-dominate that play, and we'll see. We'll see come Sunday, right? So that's who I got. I got the Eagles winning 38-35 against the Saints. All right. And number 3, the third matchup I got going into week 3 will be the Houston Texans taking on the Minnesota Vikings at home. Minnesota Vikings are the home team, and the Texans are the away team. I find this a very intriguing matchup because both teams have played very, very well. They're both 2-0 to start out the season, and they both look pretty dominant. I think that, Sam Darnold's been playing some very sound ball, has been making a lot of costly turnovers for the Vikings, and, he looks really, really good. Being in that pocket and passing the ball and not seeing any ghost. When it comes to the Texans, of course, they look good last year, and they look good to continue their year, or continue looking good from last year going into this year. C.J. Stroud, he had a pretty good year last year. And he's still looking good going into this year. So very encouraging for the Houston Texans. It looks like they found their quarterback of the future. It looks like C.J. Stroud is definitely going to be a star for them, and high praise to him. He looks like he's a great quarterback. There's a lot of weird controversy when he first came in about him not testing well. He had like one of the worst I can't remember what even the test was, but it was some weird strategy to try to move C.J. Stroud down the draft board. And I can see why people were trying to get C.J. Stroud down the draft board, because he was the second quarterback. He wasn't the number 1 quarterback in that draft, but I think there were some other teams too that saw the potential in C.J. Stroud and wanted to get an opportunity at it. And unfortunately, or more fortunately for the Texans, they were able to seize that opportunity and take C.J. Stroud for themselves. And good for them. It's working out really, really great for him. Especially the whole debacle that happened with Deshaun Watson. Never would have expected the Texans to be, right back in, a dominant position with another dominant, starting quarterback. And looking what's happened to Deshaun Watson, it's mind blowing. If you go back, what is it, like 7-8 years or so, we would never expect this situation to happen with Deshaun Watson on the Browns now, and the Houston Texans with C.J. Stroud and dominating the way they are. It's been really nice for the Houston Texans for sure, and really looking forward to see how they continue on this year. Joe Mixon did great in week 1 with his crazy amount of rushing. Unfortunately, the past week got hurt. Team was still able to come out with a win, even though he got hurt. But that is a little alarming going into this matchup. Are they going to be able to keep their running game going with Joe Mixon hurt? We'll see. When looking at the Vikings, Justin Jefferson is also a little banged up. Is he going to be healthy enough to really take over this Houston Texans secondary? We'll see. When it comes to score predictions for this game, I think I'm going to go Houston Texans are going to win. I'm pretty much going with all the away teams this week, but Houston Texans, they're going to steal a victory from the Vikings at their home stadium. I'm going to say 24-21 Texans. That's my final prediction, 24-21. And we'll see how it goes. We're really excited to see these two quarterbacks battle it out. See, C.J. Stroud continue his legacy with the Texans, and see if, Sam Darnold can make a name for himself. So we'll see more of that going into week 3. Alrighty. And then the fourth game that I wanted to cover here for week 3 is the Dallas Cowboys at home taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Baltimore Ravens have had one of the more weirder starts for their franchise, especially, when they had Super Bowl aspirations in mind, and they had Lamar Jackson as the MVP of the league. You would think that, the Ravens are, going to be poised to make another, run possibly at a Super Bowl, make a deep push into the playoffs. But, it's been wild to see them start 0-2. And now against the Chiefs, the current, Super Bowl, they're, defending the Super Bowl championship, and them losing to them, didn't come off as being this big ordeal. But now looking into it after 2 weeks after they lost to Las Vegas, when that should have been an easy go for them, and it was competitive the whole game, the Ravens struggled. It looked like they were going to win. The Ravens were up in this game, late in the fourth quarter, and they just gave it away to Las Vegas. It's like they just gave up some point in the fourth quarter. Sort of like how the Eagles did as well against the Falcons, but I digress. Hopefully the Ravens are able to pull it together here. They're definitely going to have to against the Cowboys. Both teams are kind of desperate for a win after the Cowboys were kind of embarrassed last week against the Saints. I'm very, very curious to see how both quarterbacks play. Curious to see if Dak Prescott is going to continue to live up to his new contract, where he's now the highest paid quarterback in the league. Is he going to come out and be able to lead these Cowboys to a victory against a really, really tough Ravens defense? They got one of the better defenses in the league, and I'm curious to see how Dak plays against that. So, with all that being said, I think this is going to be a similar game to the Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's going to be a similar score output. We'll give it to Baltimore, giving them the 27-24 win. That's what I'm going to guess. Another away team. Baltimore Ravens will pull out the win against the Cowboys, steal it at home from Jerry's World, and give the Ravens a nice 1-2 start. At least they'll get them on the board. It's definitely needed for the Ravens, so I definitely see that being a possibility. So my final prediction is going to be Baltimore Ravens 27, the Dallas Cowboys 24. All right. And then going with that, we'll get into my final score prediction here. I got the Cincinnati Bengals at home taking on the Washington Commanders. This is going to be a Monday night. Apparently there's 2 Monday night games this week, so that's going to be interesting to watch. I'm curious, of course, to see how these teams play. The Bengals are in desperation mode at 0-2. Definitely need a win here, so I got a feeling that this is going to be the first home team that I take. They're probably going to end up beating the Commanders here, as the Commanders are just struggling too much to get into the end zone. I think that this is going to be one of the first weeks that Joe Burrow actually breaks out, has a really good game, has probably like 3 touchdowns this game, I would guess. He's going to show why, he's still an elite quarterback in the NFL. So if I had to guess, I think it's going to be 28-14 for the Bengals. They're going to win in more of a dominant fashion. They're going to win by 2 scores, I think, and yeah. That's my thought process. I do not believe in the Commanders that much as a team, even though they beat the Giants, and I don't think the Giants are that great of a team either. So, kudos though to Jaden Daniels. He's had a phenomenal start so far in his first 2 starts. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done against the Bengals. I think he's going to have one of his worst games as a pro athlete here against them, as they're probably the best defense that he's going to be facing. So we'll see how he's able to play against them as a rookie. Always curious to see how they're able to pull out, and see if Jaden's going to be able to make some magic against the Bengals. You never know. That's why I love watching these games. It's going to be in prime time, so see how Jaden Daniels does in prime time as well. So yeah, and that's everything I got there. Like I said, final score prediction, I'm giving it to the Bengals 28-14 against the Commanders. So yeah. That's everything I got for this week, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed listening. We'll go ahead and keep up with week 3, see how everything turns out, see if any of my predictions come true. And yeah, that's everything I got, guys. This is Honest Football Talk with Thomas Llewellyn. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And I'm signing off, guys. Take care.